Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. Week 5 is in the books, and in this video, I'm going to recap Week 5 and take a look at the winning Millie Maker lineup on Draftkings for Week 5. McCaffrey, Fuller, Aaron Jones, 159.60 combined points on 65 touches, 38 carries, 27 receptions, for a combined salary of $19,100. That just about sums up Week 5. If you had these three players in your lineup, you were in a really good position yesterday. There were a total of 6 players who scored 40 or more points yesterday, and 14 players who scored 30 or more points. It was a very high scoring week. On my screen, I have the winning Millie Maker lineup. The score was 331.86 points. That's the highest so far this year through the first 5 weeks as far as the Millie Maker. And the winning lineup, Bridgewater, who scored 31.26 points, and he only had an ownership of 2.7%. McCaffrey had an ownership of 24.7% and scored 50.7 points. James White, 12.1% ownership, scored 13.2 points. Will Fuller, 18.5% ownership, was the highest scoring player yesterday with 56.7 points. Chris Godwin, 14.8% ownership and scored 34.5 points. Michael Thomas, 23.7% ownership, scored 44.2 points. Jared Cook, 3.6% ownership, scored 14.1 points. Aaron Jones had 12% ownership. Nice pivot off of Ezekiel Elliott. Scored 52.2 points. And the Eagles were the defense special teams at 6.8%, and they scored 35 points. This is a 4-player game stack, very similar to the same type of strategy used last week. The 4 players, Bridgewater stacked with Thomas and Cook, and they brought it back with Godwin. What's ironic is last week, now this game stack, the 3 players came from the winning team. Last week, the 3 players came from the losing team. It was Golf, Woods, and Cup, and they brought it back with Godwin. So Godwin has been in the winning Millie Maker 2 weeks in a row as the, I guess you would call it the one-off, the comeback from the other team. So that's very interesting. I do want to admit, before I go any further, that I totally missed the bus on Christian McCaffrey. I stated on Saturday that I wasn't as high on him as others, and it cost me. I did have him in some lineups. McCaffrey was my number 1 pick in my season-long team over Barkley and anybody else, Ezekiel Elliott. And so I have a lot of faith in him. I just wasn't as high on him. I think I let ownership get in the way, and I remember the Tampa Bay game when they, I believe that game was in Carolina. Tampa Bay held him to 7 fantasy points, and I thought Jacksonville would put up a better fight as far as stop. I mean, obviously you have to stop that guy, and I thought that they would do a better job, and I'm pretty much willing to admit that this guy is definitely matchup proof, and their whole offense pretty much runs through. I mean, he had receiving touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, 61 receiving yards, 176 rushing yards, 6 receptions. I'm not sure what his total touches were. I know between McCaffrey, Jones, and Fuller, there were 65 total touches between them. But yeah, I definitely missed that. I had him in a few lineups, and oddly enough, when I had McCaffrey, I was spinning down to with Fuller as a pivot off of Hopkins, because the lineup that I liked actually had Ryan or Watson at quarterback with Hopkins and Jones. And when I didn't have that lineup, I was using McCaffrey, I was pivoting off of Hopkins and taking Fuller. So, but I just didn't have the rest of it. I was really high on Michael Thomas. I liked Jared Cook. I didn't see Aaron Jones coming. I thought that game would go the exact opposite. I thought Dallas would control the game with the running game. Green Bay's number 30 against the rush. I thought Ezekiel Elliott would have a really good game. Dallas's defense in a position to slow down the Green Bay running attack, and it didn't happen. I mean, obviously, they took Zeke out of the game. When you jump out to 21, 24-point lead, Ezekiel Elliott is no longer part of the game script. They did throw a pass to him later in the game down the sideline, but he scored way lower than I was projecting or hoping that he would get. And once I seen in the first few games that McCaffrey put a 50 burger on the board, I was pretty sure that Zeke wasn't going to do that. But oddly enough, Aaron Jones did it. Took 4 touchdowns, 75 receiving yards, and 107 rushing yards. He set the Green Bay record for most touchdowns in a game. So it's definitely an outlier. Kudos to the person that put this lineup together. When you look at it, it's like, oh gosh, it really makes sense. I'm the James White pick. I like James White. Kind of scares me with the New England running back situation. You never know with Belichick what he's going to do, and that was a good pick. That was just a salary saver pick right there, and I guess only scored 13.2 points, but they didn't. You don't need it when you have 3 players that score over 50 points. I mean, you're in a really good position when you do that. And then you pick a quarterback who puts up 31 points at 2.7% ownership. That's really good. If you use the players that I had in the pool, and you can go back on Saturday and look at it if you'd like, you could have put a lineup together that would have placed 19th out of the 235,294 entries, 19th, and that would have paid $5,000 on a $20 entry fee. The lineup that you would have had to have picked from the players that I provided were as follows: Atlanta, Matt Ryan scored 35.90 points. Carolina, McCaffrey, 50.26 points. Jacksonville's Fournette, 26.70 points. Houston's Fuller, 56.70 points. New Orleans, Thomas, 44.20 points. Minnesota's Thielen, 35 points. New Orleans Cook, 14.10 points. Cincinnati's Auden Tate, 11.60 points. And Philly's defense, 35 points. Would have given you a total score of 309.90. I did not have this combination personally, but like I mentioned, the lineups that I had McCaffrey, pretty sure all of them had Fuller in there because I was really high on Jones and Hopkins yesterday. I thought they were the highest total on the board, and it was higher scoring, but obviously the McCaffrey, Fuller, and Jones is what you needed. These were the top 5 at each. The following is the top 5 at each position this week for the main slate. Watson scored 44 points. This is quarterback. Watson, 44.74 points. Ryan, 35.9 points. Bridgewater was number 3 with 31.26 points. And as I mentioned, he only had a 2.7% ownership. That's really nice. Prescott was number 4 with 29.92 points. And Tom Brady had 27.92 points. Running backs, top 5. Aaron Jones, 52.20 points. McCaffrey, 50.70 points. Josh Jacobs from the Raiders, 32.30 points. Dalvin Cook, 29.80 points. And Phillip Lindsay, 27.70 points. Wide receiver Fuller was number 1 and the highest scoring player yesterday. Fuller scored 56.70 points. Thomas was number 2 with 44.20 points. Amari Cooper scored 42.60 points. DJ Chark had 39.40 points. And Minnesota's Thielen scored 35 points. The top tight ends were Philadelphia's Ertz, who scored 16.70 points. Houston's Darren Fells scored 16 points. New Orleans' Jared Cook scored 14.10 points. Atlanta's Hooper scored 13.60 points. And New England's Izzo scored 11.90 points. The top 5 defensive special teams were the Eagles with 35 points. and then it drops way off. New England was number 2 with 14 points. Chargers had 14 points, and the Panthers had 14 points. So you had 3 teams tied with 14, and the Broncos and Vikings each scored 12. Yes, as I mentioned yesterday, I really like Matt Ryan and Watson from Houston. I like that game a lot. I had a lot of Julio Jones and Fuller and Hopkins, and when I couldn't get them, I would pivot off to Fuller, and basically just didn't put the players together, and didn't see the Aaron Jones coming at all. So hopefully some of you took the players that I had and you were able to put them together that made sense to you and ignore my McCaffrey brain lock. Um, and hopefully you were able to profit yesterday. I did not profit yesterday. Didn't have a huge loss, but didn't make it back to even. So it's back to the drawing board for me. I already put out the Monday Night Football Showdown slate. Shout out to Ryan for letting us know that the Jeff Wilson and Higgins were out. When I was doing that video, the injury report wasn't finalized. Didn't see that. I wasn't on Jeff Wilson anyhow. Just looking at the score, I did see that Breida broke off a nice 83-yard run to open the game for San Francisco on their first series. But with that being said, I'll be back on Wednesday, and I'll be doing the quarterback and wide receiver videos, or quarterback and running back videos. On Thursday, I'm going to do the wide receiver video and the tight end defensive special team video. And Friday, I'm going to put it all together, build some lineups, and because I'm going to be out of town this weekend. But feel free to drop some comments if you'd like. I'll answer them all the way up to game time if I can help you. I really want to make this channel grow and eventually go to a live stream kind of before lock on Sundays. I appreciate the comments that I have gotten, the encouraging words. And I appreciate your time for following me. If you do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts, I'd really appreciate it. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks a lot.